We've watched the crossover market evolve over the last 2 decades, and along with it, the demands in which consumers want in their next vehicle. The 2023 Honda HR-V signals a new era for subcompacts, where they're no longer seen as simply being economical and affordable, but also the days of small crossovers built specifically for the city and suburbs might be coming to a close to usher in mini SUVs that are adventurous, practical, and still attainable. Americans want daily drivers that are suitable for their families and lifestyles, while also owning a crossover that doesn't appear to be uninspiring and drives far better than the price tag would suggest. So here are 5 reasons why you should buy a 2023 Honda HR-V. The first generation HR-V that arrived at showrooms in 2016 was your typical subcompact crossover that wasn't necessarily going to hold the candle to what the larger CR-V was offering to consumers, but it was an affordable alternative for buyers looking for reliable means of transportation. Its small on-road demeanor was mostly due in part to being built on the Honda Fit platform, replacing the beloved hatchback last decade, as Americans would much rather prefer owning a crossover. Now for 2023, Honda's approach for their entry point into the SUV lineup for the brand is to upsize, not only outwardly, but also mechanically, where the HR-V is now underpinned by the Civic chassis, altering the driving characteristics and also joining the trend of moving away from econoboxes. When it comes to the exterior dimensions, the HR-V has grown by almost 10 inches in length, and is about 2 inches wider and an inch higher than its predecessor, making it larger than most rivals, and similar in size to the Corolla Cross and Volkswagen Taos. To put the HR-V size into perspective, it's identical in length to the Mazda CX-5, and about 2 inches shorter than the CR-V, possibly making it a small compact crossover. However, most of the upsizing only translates to the exterior design. Ground clearance is also improved marginally to 7 inches for the LX and EXL, and 7.3 inches for the Sport. While nowhere close to being a true off-roader, the HR-V appears to be better equipped to take on the elements than last generation. And what you see at first glance is only the beginning of the improvements Honda made for the 2023 model. If you're familiar with the first generation HR-V, you probably remember the fun handling characteristics, but also the less than adequate suspension that certainly made you feel the bumps and imperfections in the road. Now being closely related to the Civic, Honda incorporated an independent rear suspension that drastically improves ride quality, to a point where you may question whether you're driving a compact crossover. The outgoing model was youthful, while at the same time being underpowered, whereas the 2023 HR-V feels mature, composed, and somewhat upscale that very few in this segment can replicate. The steering may not be weighted and feedback may leave much more to be desired, but cornering provides a lot of confidence, as this crossover is responsive on back roads, and that suspension is rigid enough where the HR-V feels planted on streets. Under the hood, the new HR-V is powered by a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine that produces 158 horsepower and 138 pound-feet of torque, and is paired with a CVT. As the performance numbers would suggest, this is not an athletic or spry crossover, as 0 to 60 times are around 11 seconds. For city and suburban driving, the HR-V does its job well, which should appeal to buyers not interested in power or going on spirited cruises on the weekends. However, the lethargic accelerations will limit your ability to pass slower motorists on the highway. Yet during our time with the HR-V, we could look past that because this crossover does exceptionally well in other areas when it pertains to the driving dynamics. Across the board, Honda has made great strides in offering an upscale, classy, and modern interior for their vehicles, especially the Civic and now the HR-V, which both were never known to offer an almost entry-level luxury-like cabin. Despite our HR-V Sport only being equipped with cloth seats, the attention to detail elsewhere was rather surprising, as anywhere with orange contrast stitching indicated soft touch materials on the dashboard, armrests, and center console. For a crossover priced below $30,000, the interior is anything but cheap, including the seats, which provide a good amount of support and cushioning, where you won't get tired of being behind the wheel on longer drives. Grabbing our attention was the center console design, and of course the dashboard layout, both of which enhance the perception that the HR-V is a bigger crossover than in reality. The floating bridge that connects the center storage compartment brings some character to this vehicle, and it's here where you'll find the drive mode selector, hill descent control, and electronic parking brake. Under the bridge are two USB inputs, conveniently located on the driver and passenger side, which typically we don't see this level of development for a small and affordable vehicle. Technology-wise, this is where the Sport won't exceed expectations, even though we did have a half-analog, half-digital gauge cluster. The 7-inch touchscreen offers the bare necessities, but we recommend opting for the EXL to upgrade to the 9-inch display to receive improved resolution, quality, and functionality, along with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility. Interestingly enough, the HR-V's interior doesn't lack inspiration, and in fact, it's combining a futuristic style and a somewhat upscale environment that left a great first impression. For 2023, the Honda HR-V is heavily influenced by the Civic, as the interior has already demonstrated. Outwardly, what was once your everyday subcompact crossover, with arguably questionable body lines, has grown up to truly become the CR-V's smaller sibling. The styling cues are recognizable if you spend time with the new Civic, yet there's more than enough cosmetic features that brings uniqueness and individuality to the lineup, even with the standard full LED headlights that show relation to the four-door sedan. The Sport trim will add plastic molding around the lower portion of the front bumper and fender, which for the EXL is replaced with a gloss black trim for a sleeker appearance. Honda also went trendy for an angular front grille rather than the traditional horizontal bars we saw in last year's model. And at least up front, the HR-V is more robust and refined than what we had seen in the past. The rear end, however, won't receive as much attention or recognition, yet the full LED taillights are a welcoming sight, and best of all, the HR-V does resemble crossovers from Acura thanks to the athletic and somewhat sportback-like roofline and rounder rear fascia. Rather than being boxy and having a lack of character, Honda certainly put a lot of thought into the road presence of this vehicle, where you don't get the impression that the HR-V is entry-level or cheap. The 2023 Honda HR-V has received a good amount of accolades, where journalists and consumers alike find themselves impressed with the exterior design, interior comfort, and surprisingly good driving characteristics. But all this becomes a moot point if Honda fails to package all these intangibles with a price point that's no longer attainable. The model we had featured was a Sport, coming in at just over $25,500, with all-wheel drive being an additional $1,500. We feel this trim is the best of both worlds, where you receive the basic necessities like heated seats, but you're not paying a premium. However, for a subcompact, the EXL is certainly an eye-catcher, where for under $30,000, you have leather trim seats, dual-zone climate control, a power moonroof, and the upgraded 9-inch touchscreen to provide in-depth functionality. While many could rightfully claim that the 2023 HR-V is merely a lifted Honda Civic, especially when you spend time behind the wheel and interact with the interior, it's a great option for buyers with young families who need the practicality, but are not looking to sacrifice comfort at the expense of saving money by choosing a subcompact. We hope you enjoyed this quick buyer's guide for the 2023 Honda HR-V. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more videos like this one. And if you're interested in buying an HR-V or any other subcompact crossover, make sure to check out our full reviews to help you find your next vehicle. And thanks for watching.